Hello everybody and welcome to today's informative webinar all about quality students' unions for 2025-2026. For those of you who don't know me, I am Danny Walker. I'm one of the union development consultants at NUS Charity, and amongst many other things, I'm really proud to lead on our Quality Students' Unions programme, and will be leading on the project again this year. If you take part in QSU, you'll be working with me and my colleague Danny throughout the project, and we're here to support you with anything that you need. So I wanted to start a bit with what this is all about and kind of where it's come from. So at NUS Charity, our mission is to help make sure that every post-16 student in the country has got access to an amazing students' union. And we really see QSU as being one of the big drivers and kind of at the heart of this work. And for us in the union development team, our key goal really is to build unshakable students' unions in lots of different ways, working with you to expand your reach to students, helping you to grow your income in different ways, and to help consolidate your position as a place to be on campus for students to grow, develop, belong, and find support as well. So within our team, that's what we try and do, and QSU forms a big part of that and our mission to help build those unshakable students' unions. So QSU is our quality framework in a very kind of a simple way, and it's designed to help students' unions to unlock their full potential. What the framework does in a really digestible, I think, way is outline what good practice looks like across students' unions. So we look in loads of different areas that we'll talk about later on, from governance and management through to the outcomes that you deliver for students. And it's designed really to be your kind of guide to running a really good and effective students' union. We understand how busy you all are and how much work SUs do in other areas as well. So what we've designed the framework to do is to interlock with and complement other framework standards and codes that you might use within your students' union as well. So things like investors in people and investors in volunteering, things like the Good Governance Code or Green Impact Students' Unions. If you work with those programs or you have some of those accreditations, the work that you've done on that, we've taken into consideration as part of QSU. So we don't want you to have to duplicate work that you're already doing. So if you are, for example, excellent in Green Impact, we will automatically say that you're excellent in the sustainability section of QSU. So we won't ask you to duplicate work when we know that you've already had some of that external verification from trusted sources of organisations and groups that we work with as well. QSU has been going for a long time, and actually if we go even further back to the early 2000s, the old Students' Union Evaluation Initiative has been around even longer. So in some form or other, QSU and this kind of framework has been in and around the movement for about 25 years, but QSU just over a decade, with Kent Union being the very first SU to be verified back in 2014. So this framework is built on a decade of experience and lots of verifications within that process. But it does go through regular review, as I'll tell you in a moment. The framework itself is available for you to access and download right now. It's on NUS Connect. You can download it for free. All of our members have got access to it, and we encourage everybody to download the framework, to use it in some way, whether that's formally with a verification or informally, as kind of an internal document to help guide you in your work. So everybody should download it if you haven't already. Get onto NUS Connect and access it for free. It goes through a regular review. We're currently on our 2022 version, which we're maintaining for a final year. So if you are looking to go through the QSU process in 2025 to 26, then we'll be using the 2022 version of the framework that's available on NUS Connect now. And in this coming academic year, we're going to be doing lots of work to refresh and update the framework in time for 2026-27. So it'll be a new framework at that stage. But now we're operating on our 2022 version. And the way that QSU works is we split it in two parts. You have got Part A and Part B. Part A is a basic health check to make sure you're compliant in all areas. And Part B is our more aspirational part around reflection and good practice and what that might look like in your organisation. So let me just run through Part A a little bit to just give you a bit of a flavour about how it operates. So as I said, Part A is the basic health check. It's designed to make sure that you're meeting all the minimum standards that you need to for good health within your organisation. And it's split into 11 different parts or our themes, which I'll run you through in a moment. But it just helps to make sure that you're compliant with your statutory requirements and you're doing the basic things that you need to avoid getting into trouble effectively. Part A is verified internally by us in the QSU team. Part B is done slightly differently, but we will look after the Part A verifications. And anyone can do this for free. We will do your Part A verification at no charge. And it is a bit of a tick box exercise, effectively. So we're happy to work with you on timelines and things for Part A. But you can do that separately. And you don't have to do Part B if you don't want to. But the way Part A works is that we will look through these 11 themes from strategy through to health and safety, LEDI to people, comms to impact, all these 11 different areas as part of QSU. And we will see how you're getting on in those areas. And Part A is a tabletop exercise, but this is what the framework looks like. It outlines the area or the theme, the criteria that we're looking for, and the typical evidence that would be required. So, for example, in the financial sustainability part, the things that we're looking for are a copy of your audited accounts, some kind of examples of your reporting, your financial reporting to your board, that kind of stuff. So really simple, really easy, things that you are likely doing already. So it's not like you're going to have to dig out things that don't exist already. For the strategy, the strategic planning section, we want to see a copy of your strategy and to see that it's, you've got some widespread buy-in from students and other key stakeholders as part of it as well. So upload a copy of your strategic plan. Jobs are good and we'll go through it. So that's how the framework looks for Part A. It gives you the kind of evidence that we're looking for to support your Part A verification. Really easy, pretty straightforward. The way it works is that we give you a secure space on SharePoint to be able to upload your files to. We then review that internally as a kind of desktop paper-based exercise. And once an SU has completed Part A, we give you a nice little badge and say that you've now got working towards status. So you're working towards being a quality students' union. You've met all of the kind of basic criteria that you need to, and we can then move on to the more aspirational, deep dive, good practice stuff that we see in Part B. We can be flexible and work with you on different timelines if you need us to, but generally what we do is we look for September to November as the period that we look at doing the Part A element of QSU. What we do is we split that up into submission windows generally for people. So we'll give you a couple of weeks to upload information about the first 3 or 4 areas of QSU. We'll then spend a week having a look through and making sure it's all okay. We'll then give you another couple of weeks for the next few. We'll take a week to review, and then we'll give you another few weeks for the final 3 or 4 sections of Part A. And then we'll have a week to have a look through it as well. So we try and split it up into more bite-sized chunks rather than saying, give us everything by the middle or the end of November. But if you want, we can work with you to be flexible on those timelines as well. And once you've done that, it's on to part B. And as I said, part B is a bit more aspirational and about good practice and really deep diving into all aspects of your operations. And the themes are similar but slightly different, and there are more of them. So there are 12 areas of part B, from strategy to governance, sustainability to LEDI, insight and learning, a really important one, representation and campaigning. All of these cornerstones of your organisation and of the work that you do in students' unions. So there are 12 themes rather than 11 for part B. And as I've said, really, part B is the element of the framework that's designed to help you work towards good practice in those 12 areas. And the really good thing, I think, about part B is that it gives you this space to really consider where you're at in terms of your current stage of development in your SU. It will help to identify those key areas, to suggest where you might be able to improve or continue excellent practice. And the work that you do on part B is much more in-depth and much more thorough. So it really does require a thorough self-assessment internally from you as the Students' Union about where you're at with all those 12 areas of the framework. And it gives you the ability to self-assess yourself. So you will self-assess how you believe you're performing in all of those areas. You will write a commentary, 500 to 1,000 words for each of those sections. We'll use your evidence from part A and anything additional that you'd like to add into it at that point as well. But it's about you self-assessing yourself against the criteria, saying that we believe we are excellent at people for these reasons. Here's all of our evidence and our reasoning to back us up. We think we're very good at sustainability, and this is why. We think we're very good at democracy, and here's all the reasons that our democracy is in really good, healthy order. So you self-assess yourself against the criteria. And then what happens is we have a verification day. So we will assign you verifiers who will come in and externally verify your submission with a visit. They'll pop into your SU and have a verification day visit. This isn't like Ofsted. Nobody's trying to catch you out. The verification process is designed to be really exciting. It's designed to be a supportive process. We will only recruit verifiers who we know are brilliant, and I cannot speak highly enough for our pool of verifiers. We have got incredible people from the student movement who are volunteering their time to come into SUs and give you support, advice and guidance on where to go next. It really is the most powerful thing about QSU, I think, a lot of the time, which is the ability to have these senior SU staff with our support come in, have a chat with you, have a chat with parts of your staff team, your officers. They will meet with a focus group of students. They'll have a chat with elements of your trustee board, somebody from the university in a senior position that you have strong relationships with, and they're just there to verify all the things that you've said. They'll ask questions. They will be probing, but it's not there to catch you out. It's just there to help make the process easier and for their report then to be delivered properly. After the verification day, so they will have spent a day at your organisation asking all those questions. They will have reviewed all of your submissions prior to that as well. They'll then get on with writing your report and delivering their findings. What you will receive in your report is a commentary. So they will talk through all those different areas of your organisation. They will see whether they agree or disagree with your internal self-assessment. So what you've graded yourself, they'll provide you with a grade. And they'll give you recommendations as well. So you will always get recommendations in your report about what you can do to get to the next level. all the sorts of things that you need to be thinking about continuing to do to remain excellent if you're at that stage in a particular part of the framework. So you get their thoughts and their commentary, you get a raft of recommendations, and you'll also get that overall grade from them as well for each of those elements of the framework. At the end of the process, you will either be given Quality Students' Union status, so we'll say you are a Quality Students' Union, or you will retain that working towards status. So you'll be working towards being a Quality Students' Union. We took the decision a few years ago to not assign an overall grade. So what we used to say was, you're a very good students' union. You're a good students' union. You're an excellent students' union. But we moved away from that a few years ago. So you'll still get a grade for each of the individual parts of Part B. So you'll be assigned a grade, 12 different grades, in fact, for all those different elements. And how you communicate your successes is up to you. I'll talk a little bit more later about why we don't assign that overall grade anymore, but we've moved away from that. And the Part B process then takes place from December through to April. So again, we can be flexible with you on the time frame for this if we need to. But just as with Part A, we'll give you a submission window of a few weeks to provide us with the first 3 or 4 bits of commentary from those first few sections of the framework. We'll then have a couple of weeks reviewing that. We'll give you then another 3-week periods to do the others. We'll spend a couple of weeks. We'll give you another 3 weeks after that, and we'll have a couple of weeks as well. And then we look to do the verification visits end of March, start of April sort of time. So kind of a 2-week window there for you and your verifiers to agree on the time that you will, that they'll come along to your SU and host that verification day. So that's kind of the timeline for Part B and how that sort of works for us. So you're looking at really a period from the start of September through to the middle of April. So it's a big commitment for SUs. We appreciate that. There's lots of work that goes into this, particularly into Part B, but hopefully it's worth it in the end. So that's a bit about the framework and kind of how it works practically. But I guess the question as well is why? Why bother, and why do SUs engage in QSU? Well, for lots of different reasons, as I think you'd appreciate. So as I think I've said a couple of times so far, what QSU allows you to do is to really deep dive into all of these areas of your operations, to have a really good look about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what might come next. It's, we hear from SUs that it gives them the ability to plan more strategically. You can use the recommendations that we have of what makes an excellent students' union in the framework to be things that you aspire to be as part of your strategic plan. So you can use it in your strategic planning cycle as well. We find that some SUs are able to utilise it to unlock more funding or investment in different areas. So if you know that you have got areas to improve on, you might be able to then use your findings from the report to work with your institution and principal funders to maybe get some financial support in different areas as well to improve. It helps to give you a bit of an evidence base. You have got this external badge, and the verification of experienced SU staff from outside of your organisation, and that can be really powerful. So having the ability to do that is one of the reasons that we hear SUs use QSU as well. Excuse me. The other thing that comes across quite loudly from SUs is the ability with QSU to embed learning and reflection in your day-to-day work, which we think is really important. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more later on as well. But the ability to do that is really good. And also for your trustees, particularly your external trustees, and the development for them, but the confidence for them in the organisation as well. I'm on, I sit on an SU board. 3 of our external trustees are not from the world of students' unions, and we sometimes operate in slightly different ways to other organisations, to other charities, and certainly to private and public sector organisations. And so the ability to show them this quality framework, and to kind of explain a bit more about the world of students' unions, it can be a really valuable tool for your external board members as well, and give them the confidence that what you're doing is towards good practice within the sector. And, getting that external verification, as I said as well, can be a big reward at the end of it. We do appreciate that. But the recommendations, I think, are so key. And those areas on how to improve, I think, is a really good and important part of QSU as well. So last year for Strategy Exchange, which is our winter event for senior leaders in students' unions, I had a bit of a deep dive back through the archives, going back 10 years through all the verification reports that we could find, all of the gradings that we could find, to just see what was going on in the world of SUs and what the data from QSU was telling us. So we went through all of that data to have a look and to see what the successes were and what the areas for development were that were kind of common or consistent in students' unions. So from the 53 verifications that we were able to track from the last 10 years, we had a look and found that there were some real clear common successes across all of the SUs who'd engaged in QSU. So SUs did really well in strategy, governance, representation, and campaigning. So they were the 3 standouts. So 48% of SUs who engaged in QSU over that past decade were rated excellent in representation and campaigning in that part of the Part B framework. 45% of SUs were excellent in the strategy element, or what we used to call strategic planning, and 44% of SUs were excellent in governance. So 3 really important areas of SU organisation, and they were kind of the highlights. So SUs that go through QSU tend to score the best in these 3 areas, and you'll see where they score less well as well. So the successes were in these areas where SUs scored excellent on 48% of occasions for representation and campaigning. When we then had a look into the development areas, we had a look at those who were awarded good or working towards status, so not very good or excellent, but good or working towards. And the results here were a bit different. So 57% of SUs who go through QSU will score working towards or good in LEDI, so liberation, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So in these areas, we also saw that the other ones that stood out to us where SUs scored working towards or very good working towards or good rather than very good or excellent, were also then in insight and learning, or what we used to call review and evaluation in older versions of the framework, on sustainability, and on services are delivered as well. And so when we looked into what that meant for SUs, there were some real common recommendations. So if you're looking to engage in QSU, these are some of the things to think about in advance of your in advance of you taking part, because these are the areas that most commonly come up. And so when we looked into LEDI, the consistent recommendations we were getting from verifiers were that SUs needed better or increased training across all areas of LEDI, and really embedding that work across all areas of the organisation as well. So often there are policies, and senior leaders or managers are aware of what's going on, but student staff or other operational staff, the work that was being done didn't always penetrate down to them. So really embedding that work into organisations along with better and increased training was a common recommendation, as was monitoring and measuring your impact. So lots of SUs tend to struggle in that area and don't monitor or measure their impact on LEDI work particularly well or effectively. And so that's something to consider if you're looking to engage in QSU. In the other areas, when we looked at sustainability, the common recommendation from verifiers was around getting accredited. So engaging with, for example, Green Impact to get accreditation through their brilliant schemes. Similarly to LEDI, it was also about embedding sustainability into your everyday work and what that means for your organisation, and also improving the monitoring and evaluation of your progress towards any goals that you might have there as well. So another common theme around monitoring and measuring impact and evaluating progress. When we looked at services, the common recommendation overwhelmingly on here was about improving data and insight. So what is it that students want from our services, and how do we deliver something that they're looking for? So again, a very common theme to the others. So improving data and insight in services. And then when we turned to insight and learning and we had a look through the recommendations, the common recommendations that we saw verifiers make over the last 10 years are around prioritising data and using different tools to help collect data if you don't have them already. And again, improving monitoring and benchmarking. So important. And so that's just a bit of a snapshot, I guess, of where SUs tend to do really well, and those areas of development that tend to be common for those engaging in QSU. And so I guess the point that I'm trying to make with this goes back to what I said earlier about the reason that we don't assign an overall grade, which is that for us, this is about powering up your organisation. So it isn't about passing or failing QSU overall. And that's why we don't assign an overall grade. You know, this is a development framework for you to use in your everyday operations in loads of different ways. And so using it to powering up by embedding that culture of reflection into all of those different aspects of your operations is so important, because what that does is it gives you that understanding and insight, and verifiers are always talking about making sure you've got better insight into things, but it gives you then that insight to help you make better decisions for your organisation, to have a greater impact on your members, and that can only be a good thing. So really using it to power up and getting that insight into what's working, what might not be, and what's next on your journey is really important. And then using those findings in a really meaningful way to help to reshape your strategy or build new strategic plans to improve your services and build new partnerships can be a really important part of this. So just using it by itself as a development framework is absolutely what QSU is all about. And it is why you have got free access to the framework to download right now and to go through and start working on immediately. You don't have to go through the verification process. There are huge benefits of doing that, but you can just use it internally to help power yourself up to the next level. And the verification process will just give you a little bit more, I guess, as part of it. But anybody right now can use it for free, and I would strongly encourage you to do that. I really love QSU, and we know that students' unions do as well, because they tell us all the time. So I said earlier we were going to be joined by some special guests, and I'm hoping they are with us now. Are you with us, Alex and Ben?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm just happy for the airtime, to be honest, Danny.
Yeah,
Nice to be here.
I've never been called a special guest before. I'm flattered. Thank you.
I hope you both don't mind me stealing your LinkedIn pictures to put your lovely faces in the presentation. But you both look so young and gallant as you are. I had to pop you on here. So so you're both with us, yeah?
We are.
Lovely. So, for those of you who I mentioned earlier, we are joined by special guests now, Alex Hardaway of University College Birmingham Guild of Students. UCB Guild went through the QSU process last year, and Ben McPhee from Christchurch Students' Union, who are going through QSU this year and are imminently about to receive their report and findings as well. So 2 different years of QSU involvement, and I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes really chatting with Ben and Alex about the process and how they found things. So I'm going to start with Ben first, around why did you decide to engage in QSU? What was the reasoning that you wanted to get involved in QSU this year?
Thank you very much. Much as you said really earlier, primarily I and we discussed as a team wanted to engage in the process to reflect on our journey really that we'd undertaken, particularly over the past 5-6 years, and to take stock of where we'd come from and then assess where we were, and then kind of use that as a catalyst, I guess, to map our future ambitions. We certainly didn't enter the process thinking that we were excellent at everything, far from it. But we certainly knew we still had a journey to go in some areas, and we wanted to just get a kind of an assessment from ourselves, but then I guess have that verified externally on where we were and where we wanted to go. But it would be remiss if I was to kind of leave out having the external element of the assessment, and that validation was important to us for our university audience. And so, as you say, Danny, I'm eagerly awaiting the report, unless it's awful, and then I won't. And then I'll just hope the university forget about it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you, Ben. And Alex, you're in a slightly different situation in that you joined the Guild as the process was taking place. So it was your predecessor who'd taken the decision to go through QSU, with you joining whilst we were going through your submissions. So tell us a bit about the reasons that the Guild decided to take part in QSU last year.
Well, I mean, thanks for that, Danny. At the time, it certainly felt like a real stitch up, let me tell you. A point of context for everyone else in the room, and hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here. It's really exciting to spend some time talking about QSUs. When I started, all of the former staff at the Guild, because we're so small, had either left or were in the process of leaving in a matter of a handful of weeks. And I think part A had broadly been done, but part B, the more substantive part of it, where you would have the verification event, was outstanding. And we managed to have it extended a little bit to allow us to bed in. Because of that kind of context, I can't speak to the initial rationale for getting accredited, I would imagine that it will be around developing our relationship with the university and demonstrating that the Guild, as a young and as a small students' union, is credible and has a credible plan for the future. Um, for me, though, I wanted to share that the experience was nevertheless, even though it did feel like a bit of a stitch up, it was such a fantastic opportunity to familiarize myself and the rest of the new team in what we say that we do and how we say we do it. Because as an onboarding process, it was fantastic because we had to look at really every single part of the organization and not only think about what does it say on paper that we do in our bylaws versus our policies and whatever else, but get us thinking about, is that right for us? And we may touch on this shortly, Danny. On the day, I remember that there were several kind of parts of the conversation where we were kind of talking about plans for the future and talking about pivoting away from some aspects of the guild's approach um, that the new team wanted to take forward. And so one of the particular positives of the experience was that it gave us that opportunity for dialogue, not only about the guild as it is and the guild as it has been, but also about where we want to take it and establishing a credible plan for the future.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think, I had to jump in and help with UCB Guild's verifiers as one of the verifiers had to withdraw with short notice. So I ended up doing the verification at the Guild, which was brilliant, great fun, a really good, strong team doing brilliant things. So how did you find the process, I guess, Alex? What was, what was it like for you going through it?
On the day, Danny, as you'll be delighted to hear, it was great. I
Good.
enjoyed it immensely. Putting together all of the documentation as a small students unit isn't a small task, and so I can see a couple of familiar names in the chat. If you do come from a smaller SU, do make sure that you give yourself enough time, because I mean the framework is very extensive, which is one of its great bonuses. Um, but that does then bring with it the time investment needed to do it justice. On the day, though, remind me, Danny, we spent quite a lot of time together because it was an online verification.
Yeah.
I was letting you into bits and different meetings, but you spoke to the university secretary for
Yes.
UCB, some of our student staff, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. Met with
our
student staff.
trustees, our officers, a panel of students, and I deliberately tried to give you a couple of challenging students who would have some criticism, constructive or otherwise, about the guild. I don't think I've missed anyone out there, but it was a whole day long affair, and it was brilliant to just hear the little snippets from Danny and our other verifier about the conversation they've just had with the university secretary and that kind of stuff. So I think for me, that kind of interpersonal element of the verification was really valuable. Um, and what's nice about this kind of process is that it opens you up to the kind of feedback that you probably wouldn't get if
Mm,
you went to these people and just said, "Hey, university secretary, how we doing?"
yeah.
Whereas the kind of externality that comes from another colleague from around NUS having these kind of critical and to some extent challenging conversations or certainly candid conversations exposes you to a lot of positive feedback that is the kind of thing that would probably just go unsaid if you went to it. And Danny, I mean, you were especially generous on the day in saying, "Oh, well, the university like you, don't they?" And just sharing a couple of little tidbits that come from those conversations. So I certainly found it a really affirming experience, and one that then gave us a lot of feedback on some of the known areas for improvement, but importantly, how we might approach those areas for development.
Great. Thank you, Alex. And Ben as well. I think, your verifiers this year particularly excellent. We gave you a couple of very good, very experienced verifiers, and for anyone who is connected with you on LinkedIn, I'm sure they would have seen your high praise for how things went. But how have you found the process this year?
Really straightforward, actually. I'd certainly agree with everything Alex has said, and also just to say, yourself and other Danny were super supportive throughout the whole year, which was really, and patient as well, which was really appreciated. I think definitely to emphasize again, it takes longer than you think. It kind of will take longer than you think, because you start to go, particularly the evidence collation, because you start to go down these rabbit holes of finding evidence, rediscovering things. And that was one of the joys about the process, was kind of reminding yourself. I've been at the union for over 10 years now, so I've kind of got a long collective memory, but I'd forgotten so much. And so diving into areas that I'd forgotten about, of our work, of our wins for students, of our impact, was fantastic. And actually, one of the harder parts was determining what to include and what to leave out, because you've only got a limited word count. But it was fantastic to it was an absolute joy to rediscover some of that. And so the kind of make sure you leave enough time, start early, and make sure you leave enough time for the gathering of evidence would be my advice. And socialize, something I didn't do as well as I initially hoped, was socialize the process as much, and distribute that across the team, because of the time frame, where we left it a bit later than we probably should have done. But getting others to contribute to the submission as much as possible is kind of one of my main reflections if I was to do it again.
Absolutely. And anybody who's spoken to me about QSU in the last year or two will have heard me say very similar things about socializing the process and getting as many people in as you possibly can to help deliver some of that work. I guess to kind of close, Ben, and I'll ask the same to you in a moment, Alex. What advice might you give somebody considering engaging in QSU? We've heard socialize the process and take and give yourself more time than you think you might need. Is there anything else that you'd reflect on or advise people who are thinking about going through the process?
Will I jump in, Ben? You're looking quizzical.
Absolutely. Go on, Alex. What would you say? Any advice you'd give to someone considering?
The only kind of outstanding thing that comes to my mind, really, Danny, is I'd encourage anyone in the room to just reflect on purpose a little bit, in the sense of, well, I mean, firstly, understanding your own students' unions, purpose, vision, values, etc., will be required. But purpose in the sense of why it is that you're doing QSUs, because it is a big thing. So you need the clear understanding of purpose to actually sustain the motivation through it, but also thinking about our particular experience at UCB, whilst I can't speak for my predecessors in terms of why they initially signed up, the reason that I stuck with it was I could recognise the value that it would have for, firstly, our organisation in motivating a new team and helping us to acclimate to a working environment that was new to all of us, but also especially the university relationship. That was a real priority for me coming in, to try and build a closer working relationship with the uni. And QSU was a brilliant vehicle for that, because it allowed us to expose particularly the university secretary to some external experts who could help develop a greater kind of trust between UCB and the guild in what we're doing. Um, and by now being able to say, yeah, we've got the accreditation, we're one of a relatively small number of students' unions in the country to have that accreditation. And we know that we're on a good path and we're solid in what we're doing. That's really helped to develop confidence on the university's part in what we do. As a result of that and related areas of work, we're seeing a proportionally huge increase in our funding for next year, which will make such a difference in what we're able to do for students. And that's on the back of a lot of things, but QSU and getting the external validation has been quite important in that. So that's how it's been valuable for us, and that's kind of what I was hoping to get out of it in particular. For others in the room, there'll be different reasons, but just having a sense of purpose and the why sign up to QSUs in the first place, I'd encourage you to really nail down, so that you know that you're ready to take that step.
Brilliant. Great advice. Thank you, Alex. Any final thoughts, Ben?
I think obviously it's all contextual, but it was exactly the same for us in terms of the importance of that external validation as a badge of competence to help build confidence in the university as our main funder and stakeholder, was important to me and to the student union. That was discussed at length by trustees when we were debating about whether this was a kind of a strategic priority for us to enter into because of the time commitment with everything else that was going on. The university last autumn, when we took the decision to dive in, we're just about to embark on a huge restructure, and we knew that was going to place a lot of time pressure on us as well. But yeah, we very much decided that it was even more important because of that, and that factored into our thinking and decision. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough. Like the team at NUS Charity made it as easy as possible. I'm absolutely confident that those who enter will have just as good assessors as we did. Everyone, as you know, is so supportive and collaborative across the movement. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it enough.
Thank you, Ben. It's very kind, and thank you to both of you for giving us a bit of your time this morning to chat about your experiences and share with those in the room. We're really grateful. So huge thanks to Ben and Alex for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time. So thanks a lot. So I'm gonna move to close now, but I just want to cover some of the practicalities first. So sign up for QSU is still open for a few more weeks. We'll keep it open until the end of the month. We have frozen prices again for 2025-26. So if you want to go through a full Part A and Part B verification, you're paying £900 plus VAT. Also bear in mind that there are some costs around verifiers as well. So that's in terms of their travel to your SU for the verification day. So, their train tickets and and those sorts of bits as well. So maybe factor in a slightly little bit more into your financial planning to help get your verifiers to and from your issue on the day as well. So £900 plus VAT is the process for a full Part A and Part B verification this year. But again, you can download the framework anytime and use it for absolutely free in whatever way you see fit. So there's a QR code on the screen. Feel free to find it on NUS Connect. It's in the Quality Students Union section. You can download the framework for free and sign up and learn more, all in that same space. And as always, you will find us on qsu@nus.org.uk for any questions, or if you want to have a chat with us. We're always around and love to speak to anybody about QSU and what that might mean for you and your organisation. So thanks very much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.